I want to cover an underdog token. This won't take long because as I looked at this token, I'll be honest, I didn't think too much of it when I first looked at it. However, I understand what they're trying to do and the problem they're trying to solve, and I'm recognizing them as worth coverage. And I think there's something here. I don't know what something is, but I think there's something here, and I want to give them at least somewhat of a platform. Token is ShibaDoge. Its code is ShibDoge. I looked at this one a while ago. Its site is realshibadoge.com if you want to check it out. I looked at this one a while ago, and frankly, I treated it as a gimmick, and it is, but I treated it as a gimmick. That's why I didn't do any coverage. But their first site, they changed it. But their first site, they basically were saying, all this back and forth between SHIB and Doge, and what could we do if we brought these two together? How could we improve if we came together and we did this correctly so that everybody benefits? And I looked at it and it just felt like gimmick. That's what came to mind. That's what I thought of. I couldn't think past anything other than gimmick. This feels like a gimmick. It feels like you are just playing off of people's emotions and you're not serious about this. I let some time pass and I look at it, and for the token that it is, it's got a pretty strong organic community. I think there's a support there. I think that they have some appeal in their messaging. And when I look deeper a little in there, they went through the CERTIC audit, so that's kudos to them that they actually went through that, because a lot of tokens just skip it or ignore it or whatever. They went through the CERTIC audit. They had the same kind of issues that everybody else has, which is mostly around sort of centralization. There was something about code volatility. There was a lot of things that are not major things. They're more about, hey, you haven't renounced ownership and da 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 da. So there wasn't anything that freaked me out or made me skeptical or sketchy or nervous. None of that. It was a pretty good audit result. They locked the liquidity, at least some of it. They burned on launch. There's 420 sextillion tokens. I have a problem with that. And I will get to that on a different episode dedicated to that rant. However, they did put some anti-whale type things in, like a max wallet size. I don't know how good that is because of the token supply count, but it is what it is. And then a 5% marketing. And they were pretty clear about, again, why they think this is a good idea. They think that the community needs to come together. We can't have the separate back and forth between SHIB and Doge. I actually put a message on social media about that, where it seemed to me that each side would go down in value the more that they were antagonizing each other. And I suspected that if they were able to work together, they could change the world. They could have something big, because you got to think about how many holders there are on Doge alone, plus how many holders there are on SHIB, and their chances are as overlap between those two. Let's say there's a million overlap, people that trade both. If you took those same million and you told them each one of you guys or gals or both or neither should trade $100 worth of this new ShibaDoge, right there, you have the opportunity to change the world. Now, I know that hasn't happened because I'm watching their graph. And based on the graph, I do see buys and sell activity. And I do see that they've got a volume that's pretty good. It's over a million, and they got a market cap close to 100 million, and they got liquidity of almost 9 million. So numbers look decent good, but the holders is only 13,000. So that means they've not been able to convince either of those two sides in total to buy into this deal of coming together. Well, that speaks to the toxicity aspect, possibly. We don't know their specific motivations as to why not. Is it awareness that they aren't aware of it? Maybe. Or is it just that they don't believe they should? Or is it that they did and didn't buy in, or they bought and they sold? Like, we don't know the specifics, but I suspect that most of the people, especially on the SHIB side, just don't care. They don't want to do it. And the reason I say that is because if you look at Antecinu, who dropped one token to every single SHIB holder, it's been decreasing in price. It's not taken off, and it's not been able to succeed despite the fact that they have awareness to every single person that holds SHIB. And you think, well, how's that possible? The only logical answer, I was speaking about it with my special guest that I recorded with today, and he had a theory that basically, and it makes sense, that many of the what we see as holders, there could be basically dust wallets. Dust wallet means that they might have sold out, but there's a little bit left over, like 0.01 or something else, that's counted as a holder. So it's possible that with these, like Antecedent, for example, I don't think Antecedent has reflections, as I recall. So it's less likely, but still possible that you could have a dust. But anybody that has reflections, they're still coming in, right? And so you could theoretically have some dust based, some tokens left over after you sell out of the thing, and those would be counted as holders. So then if Antecedent, as of right now, still has its million that it dumped, but then ShibDoge only has 13,000, and it's like, well, how can we explain that? And the only explanation I've got is that they were not able to appeal to whichever of the sides to buy into what they're talking about. And I think it's a good idea, but I'll tell you why I think it's a turnoff potentially for them in a second. Let me go through their roadmap. So they got everything built out. They got the coin market cap, they got CoinGecko, they got whales, and they went to influencers for it and marketing and PR. And they did all this work all the way up to their 10,000 holders. They did all this work to get awareness of this thing. And yet they still, so they did way more work than another token that has 30,000 holders, but they still have not been able to get people to buy into this thing. Now, there's three main reasons, I think, my opinion, that they have not been able to get that appeal going. First and foremost, probably most egregious, and I know it sounds petty, but I'm honest when I say that I think this is a thing to other people. They're using that Gitbook garbage. And look, Gitbook's a great tool. I don't want a Gitbook for your white paper. I want a flat PDF that I can download and hold you accountable, because as we saw with Lily Finance, there tends to be edits, creative slipped in after the fact, and you need to have a flat document so you can catch them on that. So them having a Gitbook, I think, is a turnoff, personal opinion. And I don't believe that it's a priority for them, and that's their project, and that's cool. But I think that's number one, they need to fix that first and foremost. Number two, their focus, there wasn't this banner up top when I first looked at it with the Doge Army NFTs and all this stuff. And I keep saying that I understand the leap to NFTs and leap to games, and I understand. I'm still of the belief that you're not appealing to the older folks that would invest. They don't care about games, they don't care about NFTs. And if you promote it up front, sure, you'll get your younger folks, but even there, I think NFTs are hitting a point of saturation where it's harder to market them unless you're a Bored Ape, which I think is garbage, or a crypto punk, which I think is even worse garbage. So I don't, I think that when people see that, the older folks, I think they get turned off and they think you're a scam. That's number two. Number three is the supply. I'm not going to bore you with my rant here. I'm saying that the supply, I think, is untenable. And I think when they see supply of this much, they get turned off on it. So my suspicion is that I know you burnt half, but you're still talking what, 260? You know, I no, no. Once you get in the sextillions of tokens, I think you've lost the plot. I suspect if ShibDoge is serious about what they're doing, they're going to do a migration to a new contract, and they're going to get that supply down. And if they do, please don't go greater than 200 trillion. I think the greater supply, first off, less profit potential, because unless you were an early adopter, you're not in a position to make the profit that they're expecting. So that turns people off. They feel like, okay, I've already lost the opportunity to make any money on this thing. And that's really what everybody's looking for, is the option to make that money. So I don't support that supply, and I will go deeper into that rant on a different episode. But the other piece on this that stood out for me, and it's I guarantee you that very few people care as much as I do about this, but it's near and dear to my freaking heart. Uniswap being an Ethereum token with this supply, I get that they're on Hotbit, and that's cool. But if you're going to create a token like this one, I don't think that Ethereum is the right answer, because already you're setting the precedent that people are going to be stuck with gas fees unless you choose to go to Hotbit, and you can go to Hotbit, but then Hotbit forces you to do that nano USD crap, which everybody can't stand. And so I look and the volume is down. And that seems to me to be a symptom of the newness is gone, number one. Two, a lack of interest overall. Three, what appears to be an inability to make any profit, which I think will resonate with certain people like, okay, we're done. So I'm saying that anybody who's in ShibDoge now is probably they're in it for the long haul and they're probably cool with it. But the opportunity to make profit, and there was a massive opportunity to make profit when it first launched, and I'm sure people did cash out and they moved on. Those people aren't coming back. I doubt it. I strongly doubt it. Now, it's possible that they may do a super burn, but at this point, you'd have to burn quite a bit of the inventory that's still remaining, that's still circulating. You'd have to burn a lot of it to make it worth the while. And if you do that and you only got 13 holders, to me, you've already closed the door on anybody else. That's why I say that I suspect they're going to need to do a new contract on this one because there's too much I see that limits the appeal of it to somebody other than the same people that would already bought into Kishimoto or already bought into Shirio or already bought into Cowboy Token or already bought into Impact XP or already bought into Shinja or any of the other multitude of tokens that have that same supply. Do you see what I'm saying? Like when you have that supply and that same set of tokenomics, you've already backed yourself into a corner because everybody else is doing that same. And so unless you stand out in some way, which this doesn't from my eyes, how are you going to be able to appeal to the people you need in order to make it grow? And your inventory is so high, your supply is so high, it's hard for them to embrace why I should do it. And I want to be clear here. I'm not trying to hate on them because I understand their what they thought was a good idea in bringing the two communities together is a great idea. I'm saying that with what you have in the tokenomics, it's all about the tokenomics, one, and the white paper, but certainly tokenomics. I just don't think it's the right answer if you want to grow this beyond where you're at. It comes across as a scam. I don't think you're a scam, but it comes across that way to investors that are outside of the gambler crowd. The gambler crowd would buy into this because they see an opportunity for profit. But we're already past the opportunity to make profit unless you invest a lot of money in there. Most of the time, these tokens, they just want to toss $20 in there, which gives them what, 2 quadrillion tokens, and then sit on it until it goes to the moon. Let's go. This one's past that point. So my opinion, and it's only me. I talked to nobody else about this one, but my opinion, I suspect they'll need to do a new contract if they really want to appeal to more people. A new contract that really constrains the supply better than it's doing. Don't go too far with it. Again, I wouldn't go any lower than 200 trillion. I wouldn't go any higher than 200 trillion. Something that's a little bit more manageable. Something that's a little bit more reasonable in the price movement and the number of zeros and da, keep some of the same reflections and things, perhaps, but consider other ways to make it stand out in a crowd. And ideally, by doing things that SHIB and Doge, you're doing things they don't do, but perhaps you do things that they do, but you do them better. An example, and I'm giving spoilers. And if they listen, I will share this on social media. If they would like to talk to me, I'd love to smoke, by the way. But first and foremost, I think the NFT should be deprioritized. I don't say get rid of it. I don't think it should be prominent. It should just be a feature. We offer NFTs. If you like, if you're interested in it, click here. We'll show you the imagery that you have. Deprioritize it on the site. To me, the priority one should be your messaging, your community-based messaging. You want to bring it all together. Tell that story first and foremost, number one. Two, everybody's doing a swap. I don't see that you're doing a swap. I'm okay that you're not doing a swap, but you have to have something that stands out in a crowd. What is that? I see a staking D app that's good, but because of the inventory, I don't know how much good it's going to do. So, what is going to be that standout feature? What is going to be that utility that makes people stand up and say, "This is here to stay, and it's worth doing, and we're not going anywhere"? And I'm not giving an answer. I'm saying it's something to really think about. As how can we build something that's going to really be that differentiator? Here's a wild-eyed theory: something that allows you to interchange between ShibDoge, SHIB, and Doge with minimal gas fees. And I'm not going to spoil what I'm thinking in my head, but I think something like's possible, because now what you're doing is you're saying, let's create a parity between our token and these other two to make it easier to make that change. Perhaps you already are sitting on a SHIB bag and you want to use some of that instead of coming out of pocket. And then you do a transfer to trade into ShibDoge and let's get the reflections to grow on ShibDoge side, and then you can swap it back at whatever higher. So now you're basically turning them into a passive income type of mechanic using something you create to empower them to do that. Something like that. Once again, realshibadoge.com. If you want to check it out, I encourage you to do so. And if it makes sense for you, please, by all means. If the team would love to talk to me, I'd love to talk to you, because I think I love what you have in your messaging. I just think right now it's positioned towards the wrong target audience for growth purposes. If we want to grow it, I think you need a little bit more than what you have. It's fine for the existing, but I think it's lacking that one differentiator that's going to cause people to sit up and take notice. And so I do have ideas and suggestions. I'd love to run them by you. And if you want to chat it up with me, I'd love to smoke. Please, by all means, reach out and we could chat and talk it through.